Hello friends, my name is Emile and welcome to episode 2 of Reach the Peak. This is the show where you guys choose the car and then I take them up our steep and windy hill climb course. We have a packed show today full of 5 more cars to go up the track, all various varieties of vehicles. We start today with the 1985 Ford RS200, 506 horsepower. 401 pound-foot of torque, 2,464 pounds of weight. This is an S1 class car, 869 MPI, when it is equipped with the snow tyres. The RS200 should be pretty well set up for a course like this, of course. It has a lot of power. It is all-wheel drive. It was, of course, a rally car at one point. Not a particularly successful rally car, but a rally car none of the less. The RS200 is, again, very, very well suited for a track like this. As we found out last week, all-wheel drive cars are definitely going to have the advantage up this course, and the RS200 is a pretty darn good all-wheel drive car. Yeah, very well suited. There is a couple of cons to this vehicle. Number one, it is quite twitchy. It has got a short wheelbase, it's mid-engined as well, which means that this thing can twitch. You can't quite pull on the handbrake as much as you'd maybe like to, just with fear of this car twitching off. It's not quite as good to drive as something like the Gymkhana Focus is, but it's still pretty darn great to drive it. Yeah, very, very well suited for a course like this. I do like the RS200. Probably not my favourite of the Group B rally cars, if I'm being really honest, but it's still a pretty darn cool vehicle. And yeah, it was glorious to drive up here. It was a lot of fun to drive the RS200 here. It does get lost in the shuffle a little bit with the other rally cars in this game, but after driving it up here I really don't know why, because it is very, very quick indeed. It's very well set up, you know, it's got the short gear ratios, super quick acceleration, all-wheel drive traction. It is the perfect package for taking on our hill climb course here. So yeah, solid car to drive. Did enjoy it very much so. It's the first of the Group B cars to go up, and I'm assuming that the Group B cars will be very, very successful up the hill climb, and indeed, the RS200 probably will be. Find out at the end of the episode whether it was or not. A car which maybe isn't so suited for the hill climb course is the 2014 BAC Mono, which is our next car to go up. It has 280 horsepower, 206 pound-foot of torque, and it weighs 1,354 pounds. It is the lightest car here today. It has also got the best PI here today. It is an S1 class car, 898 with MPI when it is equipped with the snow tyres. While it may be the highest PI, it is certainly not suited for a track like this. This is a track car. It is mid-engine, it is rear-wheel drive, and it really was not, it did not like going up the hill climb course, did the BAC Mono. It is very, very twitchy. Going up here, it's twitchier than the RS200, as you maybe would expect, because it's rear-wheel drive. Yeah, it did not enjoy the hill climb so much. It's a difficult car to drive up here, this. You have to be really careful on the throttle. It may only have 280 horsepower, but again, it only weighs 1,300 pounds, which really is not a lot of weight at all. In fact, this is one of the lightest cars in the game. When it comes to sort of taking this track, you do need a balance of power and weight. You know, you need to be fairly lightweight, as we found out last week. In the last episode. The weight can be an issue. It will get you bogged down, and having too much power just essentially means you're just going to spin the wheels away. So on paper, at least, without looking at the car's name or anything that it looks like, it does seem pretty okay. You know, 280 horsepower, not a lot of weight. But it does have a really hard time putting that power down because it is so light. I'm gonna say if this car weighed another 600 pounds, it probably would have fared a little bit better. As strange as that is, as strange as that sounds, you know, it probably would have been a little bit nicer to drive up here. But yeah, I always knew the BAC Mono would be a very, very tricky car from when someone requested it. I was like, yeah, that's gonna be an interesting car to drive up here, certainly. Of course, I couldn't refuse to take it up here because I was really curious to see how bad the Mono would be, but yeah, it was pretty bad. Possibly the worst vehicle I've had to drive up here so far. Just, yeah, it didn't enjoy being taken up this hill climb course. Speaking of cars which you probably wouldn't expect to have much fun going up the hill climb course, we have from sunny Australia the 2014 HSV GTS, aka the Holland VF Commodore, 577 horsepower, 545 pound-foot of torque, 4,147 pounds. This is the most powerful car here today. It's the torquiest car here today. It is also the heaviest car here today. It is an S1 class car, 814 MPI, when it is equipped with the snow tyres. The Commodore, I was really expecting this to have a lot of issues. As we found out last week with the Cuda, you know, that was a muscle car that essentially spun all of its power away. But the GTS, it did kind of do that. There is loads of power in this vehicle. It's just 577 horsepower is more than a 6th generation Z06 Corvette. So yeah, there is an awful lot of power going through the Commodore's rear wheel, of course, rear wheel drive, front engined. Not ideally set up for this rally course. It is a lot of fun to drive up here though. There is something strangely fun about driving a somewhat slidey, very powerful muscle car up a snowy hill climb course. And unlike the Cuda, you know, this is a modern supercar, so it's much more fun to drive. Yeah, it is more controllable than the BAC Mono. I will say that much for it. Again, I think that might have something to do with the fact this does weigh more. Of course, weight, you know, you could argue that it's not conclusive to a good lap time, and I would sort of agree with you, especially when you're getting towards 4,100 pounds. The ideal weight for a car around here is probably about 2,500 pounds, probably having around 300 horsepower. If we're talking in general terms, of course, obviously, with stuff like the RS200, if it's got all-wheel drive, then you don't really need to worry about that. I'm speaking in terms of rear-wheel drive vehicles. You know, 300 horsepower, 2,500 pounds is probably a very good place to be in. But, you know, it was controllable. Again, it's another car which shouldn't be suited up here. It does feel much more at home up here than the Mono did, admittedly. Much more controllable than the Mono. If I had to pick either of these cars to drive up here again, I would definitely pick the GTS. You know, the Mono can be quicker in certain areas. You know, it's not spending too much of its time sliding around, but you just have to be way too careful with the Mono. And as a result of that, it's going to be pretty interesting to see which one of these cars did come out on top. The Mono does have the edge in PI, but I wouldn't discount the GTS. Next up, a car which, our first front-wheel drive car to go up the course. This is the 1997 Honda Civic Type R. This is an EK9 generation. 182 horsepower, 118 pounds-foot of torque, 2,403 pounds of weight. B-class car, 690 MPI when equipped with the snow tyres. Of course, as you guys probably know, the Civic Type R, or specifically this model of Civic Type R, is one of my favourite hot hatches, maybe my favourite, one of my favourite cars of all time, actually. I really do like it. I also love this livery. Go find this livery if you can. It's a Jack's, I believe it was a JGTC or an Endurance livery for the previous generation Civic, but it looks absolutely fantastic on this 97 Civic. But anyways, I was kind of curious to see how a front-wheel drive car would tackle the hill climb course. Of course, front-wheel drive cars are actually still used for modern rallying. Rear-wheel drive cars have basically been pretty much phased out. But a lot of sort of the junior rally series still do use front-wheel drive cars. Front-wheel drive cars have been pretty successful, and it's not hard to see why. You see, for climbing, having the front wheels going instead of the rear wheels sort of trying to push the car along, you've got the front wheels clawing the car along through the snow, which is a better thing ultimately. So I was kind of curious to see just how well a front wheel drive car would do. It is very good to drive, the Civic up here. Of course, the 97 Civic is a fantastic handling car, and on snow, it certainly is. Again, it's a very, very fun, good car to drive. It does have a big issue, and that is the lack of torque. Obviously, you know, Hondas have no torque, you know, that's a joke, but 118 pounds-foot of torque is really not a lot at all. And you could feel it. This car, it just was desperate to get up here. It has the power, it just does not have the torque that it really could have done with. And obviously, when you're climbing a hill, torque is what gets you up there ultimately. So hopefully the Civic didn't struggle too much with its lack of torque, or, you know, I hope it doesn't in time-wise, because it's an enjoyable car to drive up here, certainly. Again, a four-wheel drive car would be more suited, but if you have a choice between a front-wheel drive car and a rear-wheel drive car to take up this hill climb, or take up a hill climb, a snowy hill climb, you want to go for the front-wheel drive car. Unfortunately, not many people have requested front-wheel drive cars, but I'm genuinely kind of curious to see how they do over the course of this series, because I think some of them could surprise us. And finally today, we have the 1986 Toyota Trueno AE86. I know it's like a Sprinter Trueno, but I'm just calling it the Trueno because whatever. 128 horsepower, 110 pounds of torque, 2,094 pounds of weight. This is the least powerful vehicle here today. It also has the least amount of torque. It is also the lowest car in PI, B-Class 650 once it's equipped with the snow tyres. The Sprinter Trueno, I was kind of curious to see how this would cope up here. It is a rear-wheel drive car, however it's not particularly powerful, it doesn't weigh all that much. And I'm fairly certain, well, I think Truenos have gone rallying before. I'm not sure if this particular generation has, but, you know, I'm aware of stuff like old Celica's, rear-wheel drive Celica's, did do pretty well when it came to rallying, so I was kind of curious to see how the Trueno would get on. I'm not a huge fan of this car, to be perfectly honest with you. It just isn't really my thing, you know, your 90s Japanese sports car, oh sorry, 80s and 90s Japanese sports cars just don't particularly interest me, especially the 80s cars, you know, S13, A86, they just don't particularly interest me. But I've got to say, man, this is a fun car to drive up here. It is a lot of fun to just chuck this thing around when climbing up the snow course. I can imagine it's huge fun going downhill. I should probably try that at some point. It is slow though, predictably. 128 horsepower, not a lot. Interestingly enough, this car is down, well, over 50 horsepower on the Civic. However, torque-wise, it's only down 8. So that gives you an idea of how little torque that Civic does have thanks to the VTAC motor. Anyways, yeah, the Trueno, it is predictably slow, but it's a lot of fun. It does want to drift up here, which is quite fun. Obviously, again, it's not conclusive to a good lap time, but the Trueno's fun. It's not a quick car. It's not going to break any lap records or anything unless you really put some work in modifying this vehicle. But it isn't bad. It really isn't bad, which I wasn't expecting to say that about the Trueno. Again, I always like to be a little bit negative when it comes to these vehicles, but yeah, solid car to drive up here, a lot of fun. Yeah, made me rethink about the A86, a car which I usually, you know, just write off, don't particularly use. Yeah, it kind of has maybe encouraged me to use it a little bit more, so I guess that's one good thing that has come out of this episode. Well, let's actually go ahead and see if any more good things came out of the episode by looking at the leaderboard. And the RS200 is our new leader, going into first place with a 204.324. Beats our previous leader, the Gallardo, by over a second. Beats the Gymkhana Focus by over 3 seconds. That RS200 is insanely quick. It's so good up here. The BAC Mono finds itself in 4th place, just rescued from the Viper in 5th, 218.438. The BAC Mono really did struggle. The PI doesn't matter when the car just struggles that much. The Holden finds itself in 6th place with a 220.874, just a little bit behind the Viper GTS. Of course, the Viper had less power, so I guess that's something. The Civic Type R is in 9th with a 229.082, just missing out on that CUDA. Unfortunately, you couldn't quite get up there, but that just gives you an idea of how good the front-wheel drive cars might actually be up here. You know, the CUDA has over double the power, it has way over triple the torque, but it didn't quite do it. And the AE86 finds itself in 7th place with 231.585, which, again, considering the lack of power in that car, it may be the slowest car to go around here, but that isn't bad. It really isn't bad. That car honestly surprised me. Anyways, friends, that is it for this episode of Reach the Peak. I do hope you've enjoyed. Remember to comment down below with cars you'd like to see take on my hill climb course, and I will make sure they go around at some point. With that all being said and done, I hope you've enjoyed. My name has been the Real Emile, and until next time, farewell.